Sometimes life has a funny way of turning the tables, especially at 30,000 feet, when a flight attendant made a humiliating mistake and laughed it off. She never imagined what would happen after the plane touched down. This is a story about arrogance, dignity, and karma in the sky. It was a sunny morning at JFK Airport when James, a 42-year-old successful entrepreneur, boarded a first-class seat on a flight to Los Angeles. He had just finished an important conference in New York and was looking forward to a peaceful journey home. As he settled in, a young stewardess named Melissa walked by, balancing a tray of drinks and snacks. She smiled politely at other passengers, but when her eyes landed on James, her expression noticeably cooled. Half an hour into the flight, the crew began serving lunch. James politely requested a vegetarian option, explaining he had dietary restrictions. Melissa rolled her eyes slightly and said she would see what she could do. When she returned, instead of carefully placing his tray, she accidentally, or so it seemed, tipped it forward, sending salad, dressing, and juice tumbling into his lap. The nearby passengers gasped. James froze, stunned by the mess dripping onto his tailored suit. Melissa let out a small laugh and said, "Oops, guess turbulence got me." But James knew there had been no turbulence at all. He dabbed at his suit calmly, his face composed but his mind racing. Instead of raising his voice, he quietly asked for napkins and a blanket, while Melissa moved on without offering to help clean up. The man in the seat next to him whispered, "If I were you, I'd report her." James gave a polite nod, but said nothing. As the flight continued, Melissa avoided James entirely, focusing on other passengers with exaggerated charm. But James, a man known for his patience and strategic thinking, decided to wait. He had learned long ago that sometimes the best response to disrespect is silence until the perfect moment comes. And that moment, he sensed, was not far away. What would you do if a flight attendant embarrassed you in front of a full plane? Would you stay calm or speak up right away? Tell us in the comments. Your answer might surprise you. For the rest of the flight, James sat quietly, his mind replaying Melissa's smirk. He wasn't angry, at least not in the way most people would be. Instead, he was curious. What made someone behave like that toward a paying passenger, especially in first class, where service was supposed to be flawless? When the captain announced they would be landing in 20 minutes, James noticed Melissa preparing for arrival. She avoided eye contact, speaking to other passengers in a sweet tone that felt entirely fake after what had happened. Then came the unexpected turn. As the passengers unbuckled their seatbelts after landing, an elderly woman in the row ahead of James suddenly collapsed. People gasped. Melissa rushed forward, but froze in uncertainty. "Is anyone a doctor?" she called out. A few passengers looked around helplessly. Without hesitation, James stood. "I'm not a doctor," he said firmly, "but I'm trained in emergency response." He knelt beside the woman, checking her breathing and pulse. His calm, authoritative presence took control of the situation instantly. Within moments, he had her stabilized, asking another passenger to alert airport medical staff. Melissa watched, her earlier arrogance replaced by something else, nervousness. She kept glancing between James and the other passengers, who were now looking at him with admiration. When the medics arrived, they thanked James for his quick action, explaining that the woman had experienced a sudden drop in blood pressure. As they wheeled her away, James quietly stepped back to his seat. He didn't expect thanks. He just did what he knew was right. But as the first-class passengers filed out, several stopped to shake his hand and express gratitude. One businessman even said, "You handled that better than most professionals." Melissa stood by the door, her usual farewell smile looking forced. When James reached her, he simply said, "Have a safe day," and walked past without another glance. Melissa swallowed hard. She knew the story of what happened on that flight was already spreading among the passengers, and this time, she was not the hero of it. Before we take off with the full story, make sure to subscribe to the Celeb Scene and hit the bell icon, so you never miss a story that will make you think. As James stepped into the bright terminal, he thought the day was over. But fate had other plans. Standing just beyond the gate was a tall man in a navy suit holding an airport security badge. He scanned the crowd until his eyes locked on James. "Sir," the man said, "are you James Carter?" "Yes," James replied cautiously. "I'm the head of airport operations here. The captain radioed ahead about what you did. On behalf of the airline, we'd like to thank you personally." He handed James a sleek envelope embossed with the airline's logo. Inside was a voucher for unlimited first-class flights for a full year. James blinked in surprise. "That's unexpected." The man smiled. "Heroes deserve more than a handshake. You kept a passenger stable until our medical team could take over. That means a lot to us." From the corner of his eye, James noticed movement. Melissa had emerged from the jet bridge, still in uniform. She stopped in her tracks when she saw the head of operations shaking James's hand. Her eyes flicked to the envelope and then to his face. The operations head turned toward her. "Melissa, I've also been informed of a service issue earlier in the flight. We'll be reviewing that." His voice was calm, but carried weight. Passengers walking past glanced curiously, some whispering. James simply said, "I appreciate your thanks, but the real credit goes to the medics who took over." The official nodded. "Modesty suits you, Mr. Carter. Enjoy your travels." Melissa looked pale. For the first time, she mumbled, I'm sorry about earlier." James met her eyes. "Sometimes the way you treat people says more about you than you think." He walked away, envelope in hand, leaving Melissa standing frozen in the terminal. As James made his way to baggage claim, he couldn't help but think, karma really does have perfect timing. James walked toward the baggage claim, still feeling the weight of the sleek envelope in his hand. The chaos of the airport seemed distant, replaced by the hum of his own thoughts. He didn't travel often, but now, maybe that was about to change. As he reached the carousel, a familiar voice called out, "Mr. Carter." Turning, he saw the young mother from the flight, the one whose baby he had helped calm during takeoff. She hurried toward him, pushing a stroller. "I heard what happened with the stewardess. I just wanted to say thank you, not just for today, but for how you handled yourself. My son will grow up hearing this story." James chuckled softly. "Well, I'm just glad the little guy enjoyed his first flight." The mother glanced over her shoulder. "Word's going around. People noticed how she treated you. I think she's in trouble with her supervisors." James thought about that for a moment. He wasn't out for revenge, but he did believe in accountability. "Sometimes," he said, "life teaches lessons better than we ever could." Just then, a man in a crisp navy blue blazer approached. "Mr. Carter, I'm with the airline's PR department. We'd like to do a feature on you for our next magazine issue, a story about passengers who go above and beyond. Would you be willing to share your experience?" James raised an eyebrow. "You want to put me in a magazine because I kept calm and helped someone?" "Not just that," the man replied, "but because you reminded us what dignity looks like even when it isn't returned." Before James could answer, Melissa appeared again, this time without her polished poise. Her hair was slightly undone, her shoulders tense. She looked at him as though she had rehearsed something, but instead all she said was, "I was wrong." James studied her face for a long second, then simply nodded. "I hope you remember that on your next flight." With that, he turned to the PR man and smiled, faintly. "All right, let's tell the story." A week later, James sat at his kitchen table with a steaming cup of coffee, flipping through the airline's glossy in-flight magazine. On the third page, there it was, his photograph, taken in front of a plane, along with the headline, "Grace at 30,000 feet." The article detailed the events of that day, highlighting how he had helped a fellow passenger in distress and handled an awkward situation with dignity. It didn't mention Melissa by name, but the subtext was clear. This was the kind of passenger airlines valued. His phone buzzed with messages from friends and colleagues who had seen the feature on their own flights. Some congratulated him. Others teased him about becoming famous in the skies. James laughed it off. For him, the real reward had been proving to himself, and to everyone watching, that patience could be more powerful than confrontation. That afternoon, James received an email from the airline's CEO thanking him again and inviting him to join a panel on passenger experience at an upcoming travel summit. "We believe your perspective could inspire our staff," the email read. Meanwhile, back at the airline, Melissa was undergoing mandatory retraining. Her supervisors had made it clear that her behavior on that flight was unacceptable. In a twist of irony, part of her retraining involved watching a video clip of James's interview from the magazine shoot, where he spoke about treating everyone with respect, no matter the situation. James never saw Melissa again, but he hoped she had taken the lesson to heart. Not because he wanted her punished, but because he knew firsthand that how you treat others can change the course of your life, for better or worse. The next time James boarded a plane, a different flight attendant greeted him with a bright smile and said, "Welcome aboard, Mr. Carter. We've been expecting you." And for the first time since that unforgettable flight, James smiled back, thinking, sometimes karma doesn't just hit, it soars.